Hey Thrivers, today I'm talking about how narcissistic parents or toxic parents, emotionally unavailable parents wind up distorting or warping their children's self-image. And I was thinking about this recently because a client said to me, he was like, Michelle, I can't believe you like me, even though you know everything about me. And I was thinking, I like you because I know you. But the thought of somebody knowing that person and actually seeing them in a positive light was so foreign to that particular client. And guess what? I've heard that so many times. And it comes from the fact that your self-image, your view of yourself has been distorted by somebody that has a twisted and toxic view of you and of themselves. Okay, and that's the narcissist. So I wanted to talk about how they wind up distorting your self-image. But I also want to talk about how it affects you in adulthood. And even more importantly, I want to talk about what you can do about it. Because even though they get in there, they twist up your self-image, it affects your life, doesn't mean that it has to stay that way forever. Okay, so with that in mind, let's get started. For those that don't know me, my name is Michelle. I'm a life and relationship coach. I'm also the founder of the Thriver School of Transformation. I have a lot of free and affordable resources for anyone that wants to dive deeper. Make sure you check them out in the description box below. Okay, so let's get into those ways that they distort your self-image as you're growing up. Okay, the first way is with the language that they use. Okay, obviously the words a parent chooses to use or the way they choose to describe their child is going to affect their child, right? Every child is born a blank slate, basically, in the sense that their beliefs are or their self-image will begin to form at birth, and it's highly shaped by how the adults in their life respond to them. So with a toxic parent, okay, that is overt, if they use words to insult and they are constantly putting you down, their words, you are stupid, you are lazy, you don't matter, the external voice that you hear from them becomes your internal voice. And in adulthood, it becomes, I'm lazy, I'm stupid, I don't matter. So it creates these deep rooted beliefs that cause you to look so low down on yourself, and you tend to put everyone else up on a pedestal. Okay. That's when it's done overtly. Sometimes there's the covert narcissist who doesn't say the words, but implies it with their facial expressions. So no matter what you do, whether it's a negative thing or sometimes even a positive thing, a passion that you have, a talent that you have, the covert won't say those words to you, but their face will, right? Their body language will show rejection and disgust. And that also breeds deep wounds like shame and the belief, I am bad. There's something wrong with me. And then those beliefs become the programs that shape the rest of that child's life. Number two, in healthy parenting, a healthy parent will give age-appropriate tasks and allow the child to accomplish them and have that sense of accomplishment, because that creates the belief, I can be successful. I can do this or that. While narcissistic parents set you up for failure. So oftentimes I'll get some clients that tell me that the tasks that they were expected to do at the ages of 3, 4, and 5 were probably more in alignment with what a 16, 17, 18-year-old child could do, but they were expected to do it at that age. So just to give an example, imagine if at 3 years old, you were expected to have your bed done the way the Army expects it done, right? 3 years old. No matter how hard you try, that 3-year-old is really doing their best for their age. But the narcissistic parent will constantly show them that they just can't do it. They don't measure up. And that breeds the distorted view of I can't. No matter how hard I try, I will fail. And that's the breeding ground of learned helplessness. Number 3 is, again, I'm starting with how healthy parenting is and how toxic parenting is. And by the way, no one healthy, even on the healthy realm, nobody's perfect there. Okay, nobody's perfect, but it is important to understand for your own self-image how it got affected. And if you're a parent now, how you can learn from even the bad examples in your life. Okay, so that being said, the third point is spending time with your child and finding ways to help them feel seen, heard, and cared about. That might be just listening to them when they want to talk about something small. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be important. But the fact that you stop what you're doing and you listen to them shows them that they are valued and that you care. Okay, when it comes to toxic and narcissistic parents, when you share with them, they never want to hear it unless it somehow has to do with something they're interested in, or it's something that benefits them, then they will listen. But if it's all about you, then they have a very hard time, because to listen means to put that person above you. Like, you're so important that I'm going to stop what I'm doing for you. And we know that in their minds, they just can't do that. They have to have this weird status quo of they're the most important and everyone else revolves around them. And the times that people are around the narcissistic family, and let's say they do something fun, let's say they go on vacation, let's say they go to a park, or they do something that's really fun. It's usually preceded or proceeded by something awful: fighting, arguing, insults. Fun, fighting, arguing, insults. And so a child never really feels valued. They feel like a burden. They feel like, it's their fault that the parent is always angry because they wanted to do this fun thing. And not being seen, heard, and cared about just breeds the belief, I don't matter. I'm not important. And that becomes, again, the belief system that runs in that child's life into adulthood. Number 5 is healthy boundaries. Okay, having healthy boundaries. Kids may get upset when you enforce the boundaries, but in the end, a child feels more safe understanding and knowing the boundaries than a child with no boundaries. Well, in the case with narcissistic parents, there are boundaries. The problem is they change all the time. The rules change, the boundaries change all the time, and there's constant confusion. And what begins being shaped in that child is a lack of safety. I'm not safe. They don't feel safe in the family structure, and it starts to cause them to not even feel safe with themselves, because there are also no emotional boundaries with narcissistic families. So you're expected to feel what the narcissist tells you to feel, or you're not allowed to feel anything without their permission, or they have a feeling and you're somehow responsible for it. So your own feelings, your own inner self becomes something that's not safe in those environments. Number 6, in a healthy environment, a parent should help their child through their emotions, right? Everyone has emotions. They're going to get angry. They're going to get upset. Everybody does. When you're the parent, you want to help your child work through their emotions. Again, in narcissistic families, the way this gets distorted is that you get in trouble for your emotions. If you're upset at the abuse, you get in trouble. If you are angry at the way you're being treated, you get in trouble. On top of that, on top of you not being able to be allowed to have your feelings, the example that is set in a narcissistic family is whenever the narcissist is upset or angry, the way they work through their emotions, the way they handle their emotions, is to provoke that emotion in somebody else, right? They're angry, so they make somebody else angry, and then they feel better. So the child learns that, again, feelings aren't safe, but to regulate feelings is about something external. It's doing it to someone else. And so what happens is the child never learns how to handle their own emotions. They wind up emotionally dysregulated. If we're all on the scale of narcissism and codependency, right? Both are at opposite ends of being unhealthy. We're all on that scale. If that child, their makeup is more along the side of the narcissist, then they're going to wind up, whenever they have an emotion, they're going to act it out instead of work through it. If they're on the codependency scale, they're going to probably blame themselves, right? As if everything is their fault. They're going to apologize for things that aren't theirs to apologize for, and they're going to take all the responsibility and the blame on themselves. Neither side is healthy. And it all has to do with the fact that that growing up in those environments doesn't help a child to know how to regulate their own emotions. Number 7 has to do with open communication without judgment. Allowing your children to be able to be themselves, even when they make mistakes, that's healthy. But people that are on the scale of narcissism can see their children's communication and judge it based on their own wounds. Okay, so when that happens, then a child learns that communication isn't safe. If it's going to cause a negative reaction in the parent, if they are honest and authentic and they are criticized for it, then their brain is going to pair that authenticity with something negative. And little by little, they learn not to be authentic because, again, it's not safe and it doesn't produce anything happy. The last thing that I'm going to mention in regards to this topic is the fact that if you want to raise a healthy child, you don't want the child to feel like they have to get first place all the time, because that's setting the child up for failure, right? It's so much better to reward effort than which place the child got. Well, when it comes to toxic parenting, if the child gets an A-, they will be criticized for not getting an A. If the child gets an A, they didn't get an A+. If they get the A+, they didn't get it the last time. And basically, again, there's like this common theme of certain beliefs that toxic parenting instills in children. And that's the belief that no matter how hard you try, you just can't, right? And that nothing you do is good enough. So think about that. Think about that kind of parenting and what it creates inside of a child. It creates a self-image of I can't, I don't matter, I'm bad, nothing I do ever measures up. People judge me. I'm judged for being my authentic self. Feelings aren't safe. I'm not safe. I would be curious, if you are an adult child of narcissists, how many of those beliefs resonate with you. Okay, so that's how they do it in a very quick way. Obviously, there's so much more that can be said, but just thinking about that for a second. So that's what happens in childhood if you're raised around a parent like that. What does that do for you as an adult? Well, your self-image is everything. Your self-image is based on the beliefs that are in your subconscious mind. 95% of your life is governed by what's in your subconscious. So when you consider the beliefs that were put in childhood, it becomes understandable why every time you try to accomplish certain goals, you just can't. It also explains why in relationships, even though you want people to love you and you want to have those healthy relationships, it's almost like in those relationships, you're always made to feel not good enough. And as if no matter how hard you try to please those people, why you feel like you just can't seem to please them. You can't seem to create the life that you want. You can't find the career or be involved in the career that would absolutely make your life amazing. Why? Because once those beliefs are put into you and they are running in your subconscious mind, the job of your subconscious mind is to make sure that your reality takes place. So you have an opportunity to be with somebody amazing, right? A really great guy or great woman. And instead of going for that relationship, your subconscious has the belief, I don't deserve, I'm not good enough, I don't matter, I'm bad. So your subconscious mind will actually evaluate somebody that is good for you, and you'll feel uncomfortable in that kind of a relationship because it creates subconscious discomfort, because it's outside of your belief system to have somebody that sees you as worthy and good enough. That's the same thing with our career. That's the same thing with our friends. And that's why real healing takes place not by learning more about the narcissist. Okay, obviously we have to learn these things to understand why things happen the way they did, why those beliefs are there, why you feel about yourself the way you feel. But eventually, instead of just learning about why the suffering took place or why it exists, we want to start removing the suffering. And that means shedding that self-image that somebody toxic forced you into, the role they forced you into, and creating the self-image of the person that you really are instead of who the trauma turned you into. That's not something that happens overnight. It does take time, but that is something that can be done. And I encourage everybody to go in that direction of taking control of your belief system, upgrading that belief system instead of living in a belief system that was put into you by somebody that wasn't healthy. And just to let you know, in the month of September, in the Thriver School of Transformation, that's a monthly membership where we meet live on Zoom every week. We have back and forth conversations where we talk about different pieces of the healing journey and how to apply them in our life. Well, in September, it's all about shedding that old self-image that you had no say in, right? Because you were a child, you didn't have a choice in it, but now you do. So if you are struggling with upgrading your self-image and you want to join us, make sure you check out the links in the description box for the month of September.